I only see a little bit of it. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, start. Okay, good. Should I start now?
Go for it.
Okay. My people are bent on turning from me. They invoke him on the heights, but he cannot lift them up. How can I give you up, Ephraim? How can I let you go, O Israel? How can I make you like Admah or treat you like Zeboim? My heart has changed in me. All my pity stirs. I will not act upon my wrath. I will not turn to destroy Ephraim, for I am God and no mortal, the Holy One in your midst. I will not come with anger. They shall follow the Eternal, who will roar like a lion. When God roars, children shall flutter from the west. They shall come from Egypt, fluttering like a bird, from the land of Assyria, trembling like a dove. And I will settle them in your homes, says the Eternal One. Ephraim surrounds me with lies, the house of Israel with deceit, while Judah still stands firm with God and keeps faith with the holy angels. Ephraim tends the wind, pursuing the east wind, ever multiplying falsehood and violence, now making a covenant with Assyria, and then sending oil to Egypt. The Eternal has arranged Israel and will punish Jacob according to his ways, repaying him according to his deeds. In the womb, he ceased his brother's heel. Grown up, he wrestled with a divine being. He wrestled with an angel and prevailed. He cried out and entreated him, who met him at Bethel, and there spoke with us. But in truth it was the Eternal, the God of heaven hosts, whose designation is the Eternal. Now then, you must turn back to your God, hold fast to steadfast love and justice, and wait continually for your God. Like a trader who uses dishonest scales, who loves to oppress. Ephraim says, how rich I have become. I have found wealth for myself in all my labors. They cannot find an offense that is really a sin, but I, the Eternal, have been your God since the land of Egypt. I can make you live in tents again, as in the days of the tabernacle. I spoke to the prophets. I heaped up visions, and through the prophets, I spoke in parables. In Gilead, there is wickedness. They have become worthless. In Gilgal, they sacrifice bulls. Their altars, too, shall be like heaps of stone on the furrows of open fields. That's it.
That's it.
I don't mind continue reading unless somebody else wants to.
Yeah, why don't you while you're hot, while you're warm, Ruth.
While I'm warm. You never know how long that'll last, right? Okay, here we go. Jacob now sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, in the countryside of Edom. He instructed them as follows: say this to my lord Esau. Thus says your servant Jacob, with Laban have I stayed and have lingered until just now. I came to own cattle, donkeys, sheep, and male and female slaves, and I'm sending my lord this message in the hope of pleasing you. When the messengers came back to Jacob, they said, we went to your brother Esau, and he too, accompanied by 400 men, is marching to meet you. Jacob was terrified. So anxious was he that he divided the people who were with him and the flocks, the herds, and the camels into two camps. He thought, if Esau advances on the first camp and strikes it, the remaining camp will be able to escape. Then Jacob said, God of my father, who says to me, return to your native land, and I will make things go well for you. I am unworthy of all the proofs of mercy and all the faithfulness that you have shown your servant. For I crossed this Jordan with nothing but my walking stick, and now I have become these two camps. Save me, I pray, from my brother's hand, from Esau's hand. I'm afraid of him, lest he advance on me and strike me, mother falling on child. Yet you said, I will make things go well with you and make your descendants like the grains of sand along the seashore, which are too many to be counted. After spending the night there, he chose an offering for his brother Esau from what was at hand: 200 goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 milch camels and their young 40 cows, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 he-asses. He put his slaves in charge of each drove, separately, saying to his slaves, pass before me and leave some distance between one drove and the next. He instructed the first as follows. If my brother Esau meets you and asks you, to whom do you belong? Where are you going? And whose are these ahead of you? Say, these are your servants, Jacob's. It is offering sent to my lord Esau. And in fact, he is following close behind us. He instructed the second two and third as well, and all the others who were to follow the drove, saying, this is what you shall tell Esau when you find him. And say as well, and in fact, your servant Jacob is coming behind us. For he reasoned, I will win him over with an offering in advance. Then when I face him, he may pardon me. And so the offering went on ahead while he remained in camp that night.
Don't you think it's interesting that is this like the first character in Genesis that actually fears for his or her safety or life and has to rely on the eternal?
I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Well, I think that Abraham had some, I think that Abraham did, he was going to sacrifice Isaac, but I think he had some type of trepidation about it. Do you remember that part? Yeah.
But he wasn't in fear for his life, though.
No, not for his life. You're right. But I think he had some.
Jacob is worried. I know, Mike, like you're saying, because Jacob, what he did to Esau, it's the first situation that we see where, where he really did something terrible, and all these, he's been worried. I mean, he went away for all those years.
Yeah, he doesn't know what's going to happen, right? And it's almost like I feel like it's all of our struggle, if there's something that comes up and we're not certain how to deal with it, and it's like, and it's the first time we hear like somebody praying to God, like, oh my gosh, get me out of this. I need help.
Right.
And it's really interesting. It's such a fascinating thing. Like I feel like we can probably all relate to Jacob's situation. Doesn't know how this is going to go. Could go any which way. He knows his brother is a complete, like he can be, like kind of an animal, right? Really kind of a guy, and he's, and he knew, and he even like the last time he heard, well, wasn't it his mother, Rebecca, was saying, get out of here because your brother's gonna kill you. So that was like the last time these two came together, and Jacob hightailed it to Laban's house.
So that's another reason why Jacob could be so afraid, because if his mother thought that he could kill him, that's a real good reason for him to feel fear.
It's incredible.
Really. Okay, let's go on because this is exciting. Okay, here we go. That same night he got up, took his 2 wives, his 2 maidservants, and his 11 children, and crossed at a ford of the Jabbok River. After taking them across the stream, he sent across all that he owned. Now Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him until the rise of dawn. When the man saw that he could not overcome him, he struck Jacob's hip socket, so that Jacob's hip socket was wrenched as the man wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go. Dawn is breaking, I assume. Keep on going up. Dawn is.
I know. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm having a tough time.
Okay. All right.
My computer is kind of. Oh, come on, you! I just got to act like I'm a grouchy guy. Hold on, and then you can hear. Let me see. Oh, let me just see if I can move. All right. Okay, hold on. I'm moving this over here. All right, now it's better. Okay, here we go.
Very good. There we go. Okay, breaking. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The other said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. No more shall you be called Jacob, but Israel, said the other. This is a big, tremendous, dramatic moment.
Can I say one thing real quick? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Really quick. I apologize. You said it, Ruth. Like, every time like
That's right.
it's one of those situations where there's a question asked, and you might think like this guy that he's wrestling with represents God. Every
Right.
time there's a question asked that seems so obvious, it's because something big's gonna happen.
That's right. And this is
That's one
big.
of them.
He's no longer Jacob, he's Israel.
Yep.
Everybody hear this. And
Yep.
the
Wasn't
other for
wasn't he
you.
wasn't he wrestling with an angel?
That's right.
That
Some
That's
would be
right.
like,
interpretations say he was wrestling with an angel.
but it's
Right.
like right, but it's like that's what I mean. Like it's kind of like some representative of God, like you know.
Right.
Well,
And
that's right. Yeah, that's what Monique meant. Yeah.
Yeah,
right, right.
yeah.
Hi,
More of
Monique.
an
I didn't even see
angel.
she was
Yeah.
on us.
Hi,
It's
Ruth.
good.
Hi, Ruth.
It's always nice to hear
Monique.
from you. Okay, let me continue here. So Israel, his name is Israel now. For you have struggled with God and with human beings, and you have prevailed. Then Jacob asked, "Pray tell me now your name." But he said, "Why do you ask my name?" And when he took his leave of him, Jacob therefore named that place. What is it in Hebrew? Peniel. What is it in Hebrew?
That's right here.
Peniel. Oh, Peniel. Okay.
Peniel. Peniel.
Peniel. Okay. For I have seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared. The sun shone on him as he was leaving Penuel, and he was limping on account of his thigh. To this day, that is why the people of Israel do not eat the thigh muscle that is in the socket of the hip. I never knew that because he struck Jacob's hip socket as the thigh muscle. But I didn't know we couldn't eat the thigh muscle. Where is Gary? What
Oh,
happened?
No, it says to this day
Oh,
people don't, right?
oh, so
Like
you
people of
don't eat the
Israel do
thigh
not eat.
muscle?
You do not eat the thigh
Oh, I never
muscle.
knew that. I've eaten the thigh muscle.
Ruth,
Okay.
we'll pretend we didn't hear that. I'm not going to tell God I heard any, but God knows I heard this.
Oh my goodness, I'm in
Oh
big
God.
trouble.
Oh,
Okay.
Ruth.
When Jacob was looking into the distance, he beheld Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and the two maids. He placed the maids and their children in front, Leah and her children next, with Rachel and Joseph last. That's a terrible thing. What is he going to get? Does the children get killed first? He himself went on ahead of them and bowed down to the ground 7 times as he approached his brother. Oh, he went ahead. That's good to know. Okay. I thought he was putting the children in the wives first. Okay. Esau, though.
oh, hold on. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I missed.
Okay.
Are we there? Okay. Yeah, we're there. Okay.
Approached his brother. Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Esau, though, ran to meet him and embraced him and fell on his neck and kissed him, and they burst into tears. When Esau looked around and saw the women and the children, he said, "Who are these?" "Yours," Jacob answered. "The children with whom God has favored your servant." And then the lesser wives with their children approached and bowed down. Leah, too, approached with her children and bowed down. Afterward, Joseph and Rachel approached and bowed down. Esau said, "What is all this camp that I came across yours?" And Jacob replied, "Yes, it is all meant to find favor in the sight of my Lord." Esau said, "I have an abundance, my brother. Let what is yours be yours." Jacob said, "No, please, if I have truly found favor in your sight, take the offering from my hand, for to see your face is like seeing the face of God, and you have already shown me favor. Please accept my gift of blessing that has been presented to you. God has been gracious to me, and I have all that I need." Jacob kept on pressing him until Esau accepted. Esau then said, "Let us start on our way. I will go at your side." But Jacob answered, "My Lord knows that the children are delicate and that I have to think about the sheep and cattle that are nursing. If they drive them hard a single day, the small cattle will perish. Let my Lord go on ahead of his servant. As for myself, let me proceed on my way at my own pace, following the footsteps of the livestock in front of me and following the footsteps of the children until I catch up to my Lord near Seir." Esau said, "Pray, let me then leave behind with you a portion of the force that accompanies me." But Jacob said, "Why should my Lord show me
Such favor.
such favor?" So that day Esau started back on his way to Seir. while Jacob went on to Sukkot, where he built a house for himself and shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was called Sukkot. Interesting.
Wow.
This
Now, hold on one second. Maybe isn't this so interesting though? I just kind of noticed it as we always notice new things.
Yeah.
Notice that Esau wanted to hang out with his brother. Did you see that? He said, let's go in tandem. He said, I'm gonna go alongside you.
Yeah,
And
right.
Jacob
That's
was like,
nice.
nope,
Yeah.
nope.
Not only that, but like Esau is so nice to him.
Yeah. Why was Esau so nice and Jacob had so much trouble with him? Because
But
I thought that
the
Jacob
thing
would
is,
be.
though, I think part of it is the fact that, like, somebody can get over something and not hold a grudge forever. I think Esau shows a good example of that. But like, Jacob obviously takes the worst assumption, like, oh, he's gonna kill me. But
Okay.
it's weird how it works out that Esau is so kind to him.
It is weird. And I also feel like there's something about Jacob's actions seem to me like he's hoping he doesn't have to be with him too long, or he might remember everything. He feels maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I was so surprised that Jacob isn't saying, "Oh, this is so wonderful." I don't know. It kind of like surprised me the way he responded. Okay, we got
He
to
probably
go.
feels. Annie just said he feels guilty. That's right.
Oh yeah, he feels guilty.
Probably
That's a
saying,
good
wow,
one,
he's not
Annie. I
that
like
bad of a
that.
guy. I really,
Oh, it's
I
so
really.
nice to see you together. I see you together in the
Yeah.
picture. That's so
Hey,
nice.
baby.
Hi, Annie. So nice to see you.
Hey,
Okay,
Dr.
can we go up now?
I know.
please?
Can someone else maybe read, Ruth? You
Oh
did
yeah,
a
I'm sorry.
great
I don't
job.
mean
That's
to
okay.
dominate. I'm sorry.
You get into it. I know you get into the stories. You love it.
I know I do get excited. Somebody else can
How
continue.
about Cynthia? We're at 18.
We're at 18, yes. Or Monique, if you know.
Or Monique.
I can read.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Monique.
Thus Jacob, in his journey from Padam Aram, arrived safely in the city of Shechem in the land of Canaan. He made camp facing the city. He bought the portion of the field where he had pitched his tent from the sons of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 weight. He then set up an altar, calling it El Elohei Yisrael. One day, Dinah, Leah's daughter, whom she had born to Jacob, went out to see the women of the locality. And Shechem, son of Hamor, the Hivite, the local prince, saw her. He took her and laid her down and raped her. He was then captivated by Jacob's daughter Dinah and falling in love with the young woman, spoke tenderly to the young woman. So Shechem said to his father Hamor, obtain this girl for me as my wife. At the time,
sorry, 1 minute. Can we go back? Who got raped? I lost
Dinah,
something.
Jacob's daughter with Leah.
Okay, all right. So
This is
she got raped.
the story of Dinah.
Oh, Dinah. Okay, right. Okay. Just gonna go. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So at that time that Jacob heard that his daughter Dinah had been defiled, his sons were in the field with his livestock, so he kept quiet until they came back. Shechem's father Hamor now went to Jacob to speak with him, and meanwhile Jacob's sons had returned from the field. When they heard, the men were grieved and became extremely angry, for he had committed an outrage against Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter. Such things were not done. Hamor now spoke with them, saying, my son Shechem has set his heart on your daughter. Pray give her to him to be his wife. Make marriages with us, give us your daughters, and you yourselves take our daughters. Live among us, and the land will be before you. Settle and trade here and acquire property here. And Shechem said to Dinah's father and brothers, let me but find favor in your sight, and I will give you whatever you ask. Exact from me bridal money and gifts to excess, yet I will pay whatever you demand of me, only give me the girl to be my wife. The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and his father Hamor deceptively, speaking thus because he had defiled their sister Dinah. They said to them, we cannot do this thing, giving our sister to a man who has a foreskin, for this is a shame to us. Only on this condition will we consent to you, if you become like us, having every one of your males circumcised. Then we would give you our daughters and would take your daughters and settle among you and become one people. But if you do not listen to us and consent to be circumcised, we shall take our daughters and leave. Their words seemed good to Hamor and Hamor's son Shechem, and the youth did not delay doing this thing, for he yearned for Jacob's daughter, and he was preeminent in his father's household. So Hamor and his son Shechem went to the gate of their city and spoke to their fellow citizens, saying, "These people are peaceably disposed towards us. They will settle in the land and trade here. Plainly, the land is open wide on every side before them. We will take to wife their daughters and give our daughters to them. But only on this condition have these people agreed to settle among us and become one people. Every male among us must be circumcised as they are circumcised. Their livestock and their possessions, all their animals will be ours. Let us consent to them that they may settle among us." All who went out of the city gate listened to Hamor and his son Shechem, and every male, every able-bodied man was circumcised. On the third day, when they were in the greatest pain, the two sons of Jacob, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brother, each took his sword. They went undisturbed to the city and killed every male. And they also killed Hamor and his son Shechem by the sword. Then taking Dinah from Shechem's house, they left. Jacob's other sons went over to the slain and plundered the city, whose inhabitants had defied their sister, taking their sheep, their cattle, and their donkeys, and all that was in the city and in the countryside, and all their wealth, their little ones and their wives, and all that was in their house, they seized as captives and as spoil. Jacob then said to Simeon and Levi, "You have made trouble for me by making me odious to the land's inhabitants, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Since I am few in number, they will gather themselves against me and strike me, and I and my household will be destroyed." But they said, "Should he then have been allowed to treat our sister like a whore?" God now said to Jacob, "Get
Want to
up."
talk about that for a second before we move on? That's
Yeah,
pretty
that's
powerful.
interesting too.
I
Yeah.
think Shechem sounds like the spoiled frat boy or somebody like, "Dad, take care of this for me. Dad, I want this,"
It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
he sound like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's awful. I mean, here we are. We're still in Genesis now. We have this other huge dramatic thing that happens, is very vile, very disgusting. And then there's this deception, again, another deception. However, it's something that popped out this time we read it. Shechem says, "I'll give you whatever you want." And little did he know, they want his life. I mean, obviously, right? They're like, the way they treated
But the
these guys
thing
is pretty amazing.
But you know what's interesting to me, and I've always wanted to ask this question. When they say, look at all your men have to be circumcised, nobody got circumcised in those days but the Jews. And to me, that would have been to tell me as a man to have my penis circumcised, to me, that would have been crazy, there was just they said, okay, we'll do this. I just was always amazed at that,
Yeah.
I just want to know what other men think about that.
They're doing it because the kingdom, it's the prince, like it's for something for the prince,
Right.
Yeah.
And in the way they
It's-
sold it too, they were selling it as like, look at, they're going to be with us. They're going to give us their daughters. They're going to give us their livestock. We'll become one group.
And it's not a deception from Jacob this time, because he had nothing. It was Shimon and Levi that,
Levy, yeah, right.
Yeah.
and Jacob was upset at them
But it
because
just
he's
seemed
the
to
head of
me
the
that
family, and they
there
kind
would
of
be
went
there would be
without
some
him.
discussion about, what is this circumcision? I mean, just they just assume everybody understands what circumcision is. That to me just seemed kind of unusual, but maybe that's how it was. Okay, I have a lot of trouble understanding how. Okay, you just do all this stuff. You just have, and you got to be circumcised, and it's going to hurt. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's also going to affect the way you experience sex, as far as I know. I don't know that much more about it. Dr. Ed, I think you're trying to cut in here, but I muted you because we were getting that echo again. But can you unmute yourself? And you might have to turn down your audio because it.
Yeah, am I echoing?
Okay, now that's
No, you're
better,
good.
because I'd
You're
like
good.
to hear what you have to say, Ed. I really
Well,
do.
I just find this whole thing crazy. Should he then have been allowed to treat our sister like a whore? But if you marry her, she's not a whore. I mean, that kind of, and to be circumcised, yeah, it's a big deal. It's
It
a
is
big
a
deal.
big deal. I thought it would be a big deal.
You,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of guys who become Jews, they got to be circumcised, and they have to go to the
Right.
hospital for that. That's a
Right.
big
That's
deal,
true. It is a big deal.
and then to make it even worse, you had your little fling. Now you got to get married. And besides, if we're gonna take your livestock too. Now, what are these people upset about? Well, I think they're upset about is that maybe Jacob then said to Simeon and Levi, you've made trouble for me by making me odious to the land's inhabitants, the Canaanites.
Yeah.
And why should Jacob feel responsible here? Why should he feel responsible? And when you put all of this into perspective, how many Jews are in the world
That's right. At that time.
Probably
at that time? A couple hundred,
That-
maybe even less. We're talking. Remember, we're only talking 3 generations from Abraham, whose wife is 100 years old, and she had a baby.
Yeah.
And what we're
90.
talking
She was 90
three
when she had
gen
the baby.
two. Yeah, two. I if my wife told me, she was pregnant, that'd be the end of me. I'd look for a star in the eastern sky. But sorry, Mike Bono. But
all right. No more
think
Jesus
about
jokes
this.
tonight.
I'm just, let's look at this. This is bizarre. This is one of, usually I don't agree with Ruth, but Ruth, you hit it on the button.
Yeah, I
This is
thought it was
bizarre.
very important. Thank
Unless
you.
But
unless
it's all done.
Jacob,
It's all done for this spoiled kid. This
yeah,
rotten, terrible
unless Jacob is a pretty tough guy, and maybe they did all this because Jacob is, and this doesn't say this, and we don't have the commentary. Maybe Jacob says, you don't do this, I'm going to kill you all, and that's what may have been. Esau, Simeon, Levi, they're all at this point in time real wild guys in a cult that is made them crazy, and maybe they went out there and said, "Hey, I'll make you guys an offer you can't refuse." But we're talking about this is just a family. There are no other Jews here. Tops, there are 20 Jews.
I know. That
Tops.
to me, that was what always got me is that, nobody else in the world did circumcision in those days. That it's really crazy.
And the other thing,
Well, actually, no. I mean, there are a lot of tribes in Africa that did it, and in fact, fact, some of them say, that was their right of becoming a man. They had to go into the bush and, they had to kill a lion and
Yeah, but
they
that's
had to.
later in. Wait a minute, that's later in life. We're not talking about it this time. I'm talking about it this time in the Bible. Anyways,
How do we know that there weren't? How do we know that there wasn't parallel? Let's look at the Bible. I look at the Bible as a historical,
You're right.
as a historical book. I almost said novel. As a historical book, we don't know what was going on in Africa. This is the Mideast. We don't know what was going on in the United States.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
but the other thing too is that there's this this whole idea of the daughter gets raped, and then there's a reaction to that rape. Isn't that somewhat modern? Isn't this kind of a modern concept of, hey, you can't treat her like that, But in fact, if we read ahead and if you look back at the laws of Moses, this is an appropriate. It's unbelievable to me that this becomes somewhat of an appropriate way to obtain a wife. Am I right or wrong? I don't know.
Well, that's kind of it. You've seen the pictures of the caveman banging the lady over the head and dragging her away, right? So, but let's you got to put all this in perspective. Maybe this is the way you did it. There are 200 people in the whole world, and it's a good-looking lady, and I want to marry her. Maybe this is you don't know. But here's the big but here, and this is when it comes to the 10 Commandments, which is 4 books away, correct? 3 books away.
Yeah,
Exodus,
right.
Exodus,
3 books away.
Leviticus.
They treat this in a whole different way. You know, God hasn't made any comment yet. He's working on this. You know, a couple books later, he says, "You do this, you're gonna die."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Oh, this is when you, what are you talking about?
it's just
But about
Connected to
laws and
people.
how you
Ruth. I'm
treat
with you on
people.
this. This is bizarre.
But you know, the thing is, nobody asked Dina what she wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Yeah.
well, that unfortunately it's such a patriarchic type of
Yeah, she was only property.
yeah.
And
That's why unfortunately,
nobody asked her what she wanted at all.
yeah.
No,
No,
women didn't
because
have that.
unfortunately, women didn't have much control of anything in those days. I mean,
No, they just was living happy to be 95 years old and getting pregnant, pregnant. But it's bizarre. This is really, but maybe this is maybe this is telling us what's coming here. And they want us to react this way. So when the 10 Commandments come, they say, see, this is what should have happened. You know?
okay, maybe that's a possibility. I like all these possibilities. I'm with you tonight, Ed. I think it's nice to see the more primitive, and then we get to be much more civil later on.
But
Right?
so can I read something here?
Yeah.
Jake, I know it's been read. Jacob says to Simeon and Levi, "You have made trouble for me, making me odious to the land's inhabitants, the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Since I am few in number, they will gather against me and strike me, and I and my household will be destroyed." But they said, "Should he have been allowed to treat our sister like a whore?" So now we see something else here. The Canaanites and the Perizzites, if he went after them, they will be destroyed. So maybe Jacob didn't have any say in this anyway. What am I going to do about it? They're going to kill me if I open my mouth.
And they're going
And,
to treat the women like whores, right?
you know, so I don't know. But you don't see God jumping in here, do you?
No. Well, let's see. Okay,
Yeah,
so
keep reading, and then
why
we
don't you
can
read the next paragraph? Because that might God.
Okay. God now said to Jacob, get up, go up to Bethel and settle there. Erect an altar there to the God who appeared to you when you fled from the presence of your brother Esau. Jacob thereupon said to his household and all who were with him, get rid of the foreign gods in your midst, purify yourselves and change your clothing. Let us get moving and go up to Bethel, that I may build an altar there to the God who responds to me in my time of distress, who has been with me on the road that I have traveled. So they gave Jacob all.
I feel like this is amazing because it's like Jacob's getting closer and closer to God as the story goes on. I just wanted to throw that out.
Okay, so then Jacob, let's see, go on.
All the foreign gods they were holding and the rings in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak near Shechem. As they journeyed, the dread of God fell upon the cities around them, so they did not pursue Jacob's clan. And Jacob came to Luz in the land of Canaan, that is Bethel, and he and all the folk came with him. There he built an altar and called that sacred site El of Bethel, for there in his flight from his brother, God had been revealed to him. And Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried below Bethel under the oak, so he named it the Oak of Weeping. God appeared to Jacob again on his return from Padam Aram and blessed him. God said to him, Jacob is your name, but Jacob are you called no more, for Israel is your name. Thus God named him Israel, and God said to him, I am El Shaddai. Be fruitful and multiply. A people and a host of peoples shall come from you, and kings shall go forth from your loins. And the land that I gave to Abraham and to Isaac, I will give to you, and to your descendants after you will I give the land. And the presence of God ascended from him at that sacred site where God had spoken to him. Jacob set up a monument in that sacred site where God had spoken to him, a pillar of stone. He then poured out a libation upon it and anointed it with oil. Jacob named the place where God had spoken to him Bethel. They then journeyed from Bethel, and there was still some ground to cover before reaching Ephrath. Ephrath, when Rachel went into labor, and her labor was difficult. And as her labor was difficult for her, the midwife said to her, "Don't be afraid, this one too will be a son for you." And as her life was leaving her, for she was dying, she named him Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. Rachel died and was buried on the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And Jacob set up a pillar by her burial site. It is the monument at Rachel's tomb to this day. Israel then resumed his journey and pitched his tent beyond the town of Eder. Now, while Israel was residing in that area, Reuben went and lay with his father's concubine, Bilhah, and Israel heard of it. The sons of Jacob were 12 in number. Leah's sons were Jacob's firstborn, Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. Rachel's sons were Joseph and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maid, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maid, were Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, born to him in Padam Aram. Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, near Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. The years of Isaac's life came to 180. Isaac then breathed his last and died. He was gathered to his people old and full of years, and his sons Jacob and Esau and Jacob buried him. This is the line of Esau, that is Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Oholibamah, daughter of Anna, daughter of Zibeon the Hittite, and Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, Nebaioth's sister. Adah bore Elipaz to Esau, and Basemath bore Ruel. Oholibamah bore Jush. Jalam and Korah, these are the sons of Esau, born to him in the land of Canaan. Esau took his wives and sons and all the people of his household, his livestock, his cattle, and all his possessions acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to another region because of his brother Jacob. For their wealth was too abundant for them to dwell together. The land where they were staying could not support them both because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is also called Edom. This then is the line of Esau, progenitor of the Edomites of the hill country of Seir. I think I'm going to stop here.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. And that, okay. What it's going to show now is all the names of Esau's,
Descendants,
you know,
yeah.
dynasty. Okay.
Yeah. Can I point out, like, I don't think we need to read this, right?
We don't have to read everybody's
Everlasting
son names.
Torah.
Yeah, right.
But did you see that there was somebody who died that was from Rebecca's?
Yeah, well, Rebecca died.
Deborah. Yeah.
I mean, Rachel died.
Right. Rachel died after giving birth to, but this was it kind of just comes out of nowhere. It said that Deborah was Rebecca's maid. So it was almost like they must have regarded her as like such a close family member. Yeah. Deborah was Rebecca's maid. Where was it? It was down here somewhere. But it just kind of struck me as like, oh, and then they called it the Valley of Tears because they loved Deborah, even though we don't know.
Her name was Bilhah, not Rebecca. Bilhah.
Yeah, one of the maids, you're right, is Bilhah.
It was Bilhah. It was Bilhah, not
Deborah.
Rebecca.
All right. Well, I think we're just. I wanted to get to the part because it just kind of came out of nowhere.
By virtue of the fact that her name was recorded and that it said that,
Right. So I think it's back here.
There it is, at number 8.
Number 8. Thank you.
Oh, and Deborah, Rebecca's nurse. Oh, I see. Okay. Right.
So
died and was buried below Bethel under the oak, so she was named Oak of Weeping. Interesting.
Yeah.
Rachel died and they buried her on the road. And if you go to, I think it's Bethlehem at Hebron, where did it say? If you go there, it's still on the corner, right on the road.
Wow.
Rachel's tomb, and there were always, was buried on the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. And if you go to Bethlehem, you can see right on the road is her tomb, which looked very much like the tomb of David. It's a big, huge rock. a big,
Wow.
huge, and there are always women there praying for children, for
Oh,
their
that's
to have
nice
for
to have
children there,
children, right?
to
Yeah.
have
Miss Rachel
children,
died in
and they're
Wow.
there.
childbirth.
So I always caught me. I haven't been there in many years, but that was really important. I don't know if anyone else has ever been there.
Well,
You know what?
I have been to Bethlehem, but I don't remember seeing that stone. I don't
It's
know why
just
I
a
never.
huge stone, and she's buried
Yeah.
apparently inside it. I don't
Yeah.
know, but there are lots of women there, and it
Oh
caught me
wow.
off guard.
Wow, that's interesting.
Bethlehem is magnificent. If you've never been to the Church of the Nativity, Michael,
Yeah.
magnificent. So the next time we go, we're going to have to go see that.
All right.
It's a little dangerous now to go there, but
Yeah, yeah.
Israel or to Bethlehem?
I'm sorry?
It's dangerous to go to Israel or to Bethlehem?
Bethlehem. Bethlehem's on the West Bank, and the tour operators get a little
Oh,
nervous.
then I wasn't there. I take it back because when I was in Israel, I couldn't go to the West Bank. Okay, so
Yeah,
I
I went
wasn't
to the
there.
Holy Sepulchre Church of
No,
the
I
Major
wasn't. I
Star.
wasn't there. I wasn't there. I'm thinking of something else. Okay.
All right. Anything else? I'm just going through here. This is all the descendants of,
It's just all the descendants. We don't
yeah,
want to read everybody's
Esau and
name.
everybody, and the kings of Edom. And let me just see one more.
You lost Cynthia, didn't we? I just
Bob,
You
realized.
know
wow,
what
that's
would have
interesting.
been really great if after this was written, after they did all the descendants, there was a way that we could fall to trace back our families all the way back to this. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, I'm sure that'll happen
Kind of,
eventually. That
yeah, I
could
know,
happen.
but it wasn't recorded down.
All right. Anyone want to add anything else? Dr. Ed, I'm going to mute you for a second because we're getting a lot of echo. All right. Okay. Now there goes the echo chamber. All right. Anything else? This is quite a
But
lot.
this is a very powerful pasha because first of all, Jacob is now Israel, which is a very big. That's a real big thing that he's now no longer called Jacob. He's called Israel. I mean, that's significant. Okay, I remember reading that in Sunday school. That it was impressive to me.
But you
Okay,
think about what the name Jacob originally from the root comes from heel,
yeah,
and
right,
now he's
Yaakov,
somebody who
right,
like wrestled like with man and with God and prevailed.
right.
You know,
It's really a powerful. I mean, this is a very powerful pasha, even though there's a lot of crazy stuff in it. It's still a powerful pasha in some
but the
ways,
whole
you know.
thing about the thing with Shechem is it's just all of that was done just because some ruler's like son wanted this woman that he raped. Like everybody, like all the men had to circumcise themselves, and they ultimately ended up dying. All of this just so that Hamor could, satisfy Shechem.
That's
You
right.
know,
That is pretty funny.
it's
It
like
is.
it makes you think of the spoiled kid who, oh, my dad will
Yeah,
take care of
right. I
it.
hear you. Yeah.
He'll just get a good lawyer, and I'll get off. My dad will take care of it. You know?
Yeah.
But it's weird also how, like I say, how Esau turns out.
Yeah.
Because he's depicted as like a beast, but yet he's this very
Yeah, actually,
hospitable,
yeah. What I liked about Esau
kind.
is he was the beastie type, but he was the one with so much compassion. That really was an also very powerful
He
part of
apparently
this.
forgave him.
Yeah,
Over those years, like while Jacob was gone, it's somewhere along the line, Esau said, "Hey,
I
Hmm.
I don't
know.
care. I'm doing okay. I don't really care.
Yeah,
Hmm.
you know something. You know what he remind? I just
Because
thought
he
this is a
was
real
blessed
funny.
too.
You know what the analogy is to me? That Asa was more like blue collar, and Jacob was more white collar. I see because the blue,
Mm.
That's a
yeah,
great,
because
yeah, that's a great analogy.
yeah, because
Yeah.
Esau really was like a hard working man, and he could understand and appreciate what he had,
Mhm.
and kind of Jacob, kind of like he had to learn from that not everything was just as easy as he got it even from his deception stuff.
Mhm.
It's just interesting to me.
Yeah. And you like to live in tents. You like to read.
Yeah, he was a yeshiva bacher.
Ushrei
Yeah.
Ohalim. Ushrei Ohalim.
Well, this was wonderful,
Yeah.
folks. This
Yeah.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As usual. It's always entertaining, always enlightening to read the Torah with you.
Yes, it is. It is very
Jacob becomes
enlightening.
Israel.
Underground, baby.
You know, I wanted to ask you something, Mike. In Christianity, we follow of the Torah, of course, and we do the prophets and everything afterwards. When you have a service, do you have something that you follow that's like really a document that's very important to?
Well, we take it's like the whole Bible,
Yeah.
the Hebrew Bible, which is
Yeah.
your Bible, and I mean there are slight differences, and then we tack on the New Testament to that Bible,
Right.
so that
Right.
it becomes like the whole Bible. And the New Testament's very short compared to the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible has got to be, I'm going to say 75% of our Bible is the Hebrew Bible. So every week, most Christian, like mainline Christian groups will pick 3 different readings from the Bible to read, and they're only like maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs. It's not like this.
I see. It's not a whole pasha.
Yeah, they'll start with the Hebrew Bible, then they'll do something from Psalms usually, which is also the Hebrew, and then they'll do something from the letters of Paul, and then they'll end with a reading from the Gospel, which is the Gospels are the 4 books that talk about the life of Jesus, and they quote.
I see.
Pretty much so.
I see.
So,
Okay.
And so what happens is there's like a 3-year cycle, because I'm going to tell you, they don't read in 3 years. There's plenty of stuff that they don't look at typically. I mean, there's certain things that they just don't have. They just have like the greatest hits, it's like, yeah. Right. So because every 3 years it rotates again. So the first year it's year 1, they read these readings and it's all different.
Interesting.
Year 2, year 3, and then when on year 4 it goes back to year 1. So it kind of they kind of cycle through. And but the interesting thing, because I was raised Catholic, is Catholics aren't really encouraged to read the whole Bible, whereas I think Protestants are more encouraged to read the entire Bible.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because when Catholics, I mean, I've gone to a number of groups as an adult, and I will ask them still, because I wanted to know everything when I was coming out of my atheist stage. I was like, I want to know everything about everything.
Yeah, right.
Give it all to me. And it was yeah.
Isn't if I'm correct, after Easter, during the weeks of Pentecost, during that period, isn't there, I know a tab, we don't usually read anything from the Old Testament.
Tabernacle is interesting because it's they kind of follow their own rules, I think, a little bit.
Is that a tabernacle thing?
Yeah, I think so, because I know that because I was raised Catholic, I know, like, and I was like instructed to go to mass every week where the readings were up until I was probably 18 or so. So Tabernacle is different because they will take readings and they'll switch readings. They don't really follow the same patterns, but then they'll go back. I mean, they look at, we're playing rock and roll at church, Gary. It's kind of like it is.
So what I want to understand is, so what I was trying to understand is that even Reform, Conservative, and Orthodox, they do follow the Pasha every week, even if it's watered down, but in Christianity, there isn't one document that's followed week after week, is what I'm asking you.
Yes, there is.
Right. It's not like this. I mean, if you're asking if there's something like this, they don't read it like this. They don't.
No, they don't. I just was curious. I was just curious.
Which is really, that's a really good question. And I mean, I will say that there's a guy who is kind of like my, other than Jesus, there's this guy named Edgar Casey who lived around.
I know who he is.
1900. Do you know who he is?
Yeah,
I read a lot of his books. In fact, his books.
I've read a couple.
So what about him?
Well, his whole thing was he was able to help people heal through. I mean, he would do meditations and he would.
Right, I understand the healing.
Go into healing, and one of the things, and one of the reasons I believe he had that well, he also had a very kind heart. He was a Christian. However, he also read the Bible every year. Just like, it's almost just like this, except he read the whole like Christian Bible.
The whole Bible, yeah.
Yeah. Each year he read it. So he lived 67 years. So he read the Bible 67 times through. And
Wow, that's great.
I believe that's where he got some of that maybe power or maybe insight
Right.
to help
Yeah.
people. I mean, he always had that heart. Like even when he was a child, he hurt when other children hurt. He hurt, and he always asked God, like, why are these children getting so sick? Why can't anyone help some of these kids? And this was around 1880s, 1890s. And
Wow.
and there was like an angel that came to him and said, you know what, your prayers have been answered. And I believe, and he didn't know it at the time what that meant, but he started to have these abilities to hear people's and he wasn't a
Wow.
smart man. He wasn't a very educated man. I mean, he was kind of more like a farm boy, but
Right.
he was able to connect with people and also connect with the divine in a way that was able to bridge these gaps. And
Wow.
he's got like what they're called is when he helped people, they were called readings, and he has like 40,000. Like his group is still around, and they still like operate, and they're operating in Virginia.
Do you think that's where all that healing, you know how people say I'm healed? They have these people that do healing services in the Christian churches. Is that from that type of?
I think so. I mean, it's hard to say what exactly is going on there, and I'm kind of skeptical because I mean, when Casey did it like you're healed, it wasn't like that at all. It was more like you're going to a pharmacist, but he would say things like, you got to take a branch from the elm tree, mix it with pears, and then pour molasses on it. Boil that down into like, I mean, it would be very, it wasn't like Jesus.
It was actually very, medicinal. Yeah. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
They call him the father of holistic medicine. So
it is like holistic medicine.
it is
right?
holistic.
Yeah,
And I'm telling you, they're because they still operate. And there was a couple of things that I did that helped me out. Like
incidentally, I want you to know about holistic medicine, especially homeopathic. I took a course in homeopathic medicine, and one of the things that I learned is that there was this man, I can't think of his name, it bothers me. I went to a lecture with him. He was a doctor first, okay? He was an MD first, and he found that doctors were not really understanding how to give out prescriptions to people, that the prescriptions were not working. And so he studied homeopathic, and he explained that if you actually get the most appropriate homeopathic medicine, it works immediately. So I'll give you an example. If you have a kidney problem, but it has to be a specific kidney problem, let's say it's that you're having trouble, urinating or something, but not that you have a stone or something. There's a specific homeopathic formula for that, okay? And he was so knowledgeable, this guy, that he could take people that were in the audience, and he said to them, you got to take this and this, and you tell them how to mix each thing, okay? And you immediately were cured. It was unbelievable. Like if you had a serious allergy, but you had to know the specifics of your allergy. It couldn't be just any allergy. It's like if you had an allergy to feathers, let's say, but not to cats. There was a specific homeopathy. And what was so brilliant about this guy, I saw him in Cambridge. I'm getting upset that I can't remember his name, but I was so amazed by this guy because he really understood that these formulas, and it sounds like this guy understood this, the guy you're talking about, that if you understood these formulas, that immediately it cured you. It wasn't something you have to wait, days or do for years. It was really fascinating. I've always been fascinated with homeopathic. And I'll tell you one thing, if you're ever in a mountain, or if you ever fall, you know how you get that feeling, right away? That's when you take Arnica immediately. It will actually, literally, you won't get that pain. It'll go away immediately. I actually had this happen. I hurt myself, and I was walking somewhere and I had Annika with me and I popped it in my mouth. You put it under your tongue and it immediately takes the pain away.
Wow.
Now, Annika works for lots of things, but when it comes to that type of pain, when you have, ow, when you hurt yourself and you really feel that pain, you
Mhm.
take it immediately and the pain will go away. It's really amazing.
I didn't know you could take it by your mouth. I thought that was always like a rub or something.
No, that's just more recent, but the actual homeopathic is in pellets or in liquid. It's much different. When you study homeopathic, it's more brilliant than anything that's in medicine today. I'm telling you, but you have to have a person who's really been studying it for years and years. I had a friend who took a whole year course in it, and she said, I can't tell you how much I have to learn to be able to do this. So this guy was like a genius at it. I was just so enthralled with this man.